Hi, Mrs. Beer's class. Today's math lesson, we are going to review and go over how to identify decimals that are equivalent to a given fraction. A fraction and a decimal can both be used to represent the same value. Here is a little drawing or model of what place value looks like. So right here in this model, this right here is the decimal point, and everything over here is whole numbers, and everything to the right of the decimal are numbers or values less than 1. So looking at the fraction 2/10, what I wanted to show you is if I find the tenths place value column and I write a 2 in there, I have just successfully written the decimal version or form for the fraction 2/10. Now typically here we would put a 0 to represent that there are 0 ones. There's not a whole number. We're talking about decimal 2 or 0.2, and then we read that as 2/10, which is exactly the same way we read the fraction 2/10. So in this example, you see that the denominator is 100, and we read this fraction 25/100ths. So similar to the previous one, we would write 25, making sure that that last digit ends in the hundredth spot. And so we have just written the decimal 25/100ths. Now on a piece of paper, I would encourage you to write the 0 for the whole number and then 25 to show 25/100ths. And you can see there's 2 places to the right, just taking you to the hundredths place. Now when we move on to this next one is where sometimes kids make simple mistake, is because they want to write this as 0 decimal and then an 8. But that is wrong because that is 8/10. So we would want to make sure we put the 8 in the hundredths, but we need to hold this spot here because there are no tenths, and this would be read 800ths. So 0.08. This is the same as this fraction over here. They are both read as 800ths. And then in this example, we have 17/10. So you would think, okay, that's easy. I'm just going to write 17 in the tenths column, but that is not true. We can't do that because we can only write one digit per place value spot. And so there's a couple ways to think about it. We know that, I'm going to go ahead and erase this. We know that we can put the 7 here and the 1 here, as long as the 7 lands in the tenths column, and we would need to drop the decimal in there. So our answer would be 1 7/10. So that's one way to think about it. Another way is to take this and change it to a mixed number, because that's an improper fraction. So 17/10. 17 divided by 10, we can get 1. The remainder is 7, and we write that over 10. So now the mixed number, 1 7/10, 1 7/10. We still get the same answer. So this is how we could change this improper fraction to a mixed number and then write it. Or you can make sure that the last digit lands in the tenths column. Now, the next part, it's getting a little bit more complicated, but it's really kind of easy, is 1/5. We see here that there's a 5 in the denominator, but we want that to be either a 10 or 100. So can we get to 10? Yes, 5 times 2 is 10. So we multiply the top by 2, and that's 2. So our answer would be 2/10 written 0.2. In this example, we also need to change it to a fraction with a 10 or 100 in the denominator, and I can't easily get to 10, so I'm going to see if I can get to 100, and the answer is yes, because thinking about quarters, 25 times 4, you get 100 cents or $1. So 25 times 4 is 100, and 11 times 4 is 44. So we would write that here, making sure we end in the hundredths column. So the correct answer is 0.44 or 44 hundredths. In this example, we also need to make the denominator 10 or 100. My first thought is, oh, easy, I can do that because 20 divided by 2 equals 10. But 19 divided by 2 doesn't happen easily. So that is not going to be the way you want to do that. So instead, let's try 100. And we can do that because 20 times 5 is 100, because 2 times 5 is 10. And so then you would need to do 19 times 5. And 19 times 5 is 95. So you might need to go do that over here off to the side if you aren't able to do that in your head. 5 times 9 is 45. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 4 more is 9. And then we just change that to a decimal easily, 95 hundredths. All right, and then this next one, you can't get the denominator to be 10 or 100 easily. And so this one, you're going to have to do a couple of steps. And what you always want to think about if you can't see it quickly enough to get to tenths or hundredths is maybe we need to simplify this fraction. And so we can do that by dividing the top and the bottom by 3. So that would be 1/5. And now that I have 1/5, I know easily I can get to tenths because 5 times 2 is 10 and 1 times 2 is 2. So my answer would be 2/10, written just like that. All right, it is now time for you to practice. So here are 6 problems for you to do on your own, and then you can advance to the next slide. So you pause this, solve it, advance to the next slide, check your work on your paper, and then you are going to see that you need to go back to Pearson Math and do the digital quick check that's been assigned to you. All right, if any of that didn't make sense, you can go back and watch parts of it again or send me a message. All right, see you later.